For 17 long years, the desert had been the only companion of Elijah Boone, a quiet rancher who had built his life far away from towns, saloons, and the noise of people whose hearts were too loud for his liking. Out here the wind spoke softly, the dust carried memories, and the sunrise felt like a promise that someday the loneliness would make sense. Elijah's ranch sat miles away from any known trail, a place where even bandits didn't bother to pass through, for the land was unforgiving, harsh, and wide enough to swallow the unprepared. Every day Elijah woke before dawn, tending to his horses, repairing fences, boiling coffee strong enough to wake ghosts, and listening to the silence that wrapped around him like an old blanket. He wasn't unhappy, just unfinished, like a story waiting for the next page. But on one blazing afternoon, the desert broke its silence. Elijah was riding through the far side of his land, checking for signs of coyotes, when he noticed something strange. Two wooden poles standing upright in the sand, far away from the nearest road. He pulled the reins, and his horse snorted uneasily. Poles in the middle of nowhere meant trouble, and trouble in the Wild West never came alone. Elijah dismounted slowly, each step cautious, his hand resting on the handle of his revolver. As he got closer, he saw something that froze him mid-step, the shape of a human, suspended upside down between the poles, ropes cutting into skin, arms and legs stretched out as though someone wanted to display her like a warning. It was a woman. Her long hair dangled toward the ground, dust clinging to the strands. Her dress was torn, decorated with native-style stitching, yet clearly damaged from struggle. Her face was streaked with dirt, but even through the grime he could see she was young, breathing shallowly, alive but barely. Elijah quickly scanned the horizon. No hoofprints, no wagon tracks, no sign of who had left her here. Whoever had done this had vanished without a trace. He felt the back of his neck tighten. This was no simple bandit trick. This was something else, something purposeful. He hurried to her, climbing the wooden support and loosening the main knots. She fell gently into his arms as the ropes slackened. "It's all right," he whispered, though he wasn't sure she could hear. "You're safe now." But she didn't answer. Her skin was warm from the sun, her breathing faint. She had been left here to die. Elijah carried her to his horse, letting her lean against the saddle as he mounted. He rode fast, cutting through dry wind and rising heat, racing back to his ranch. There he laid her on his only spare bed and began tending to her wounds with the same careful hands he used on injured animals. He wiped the dust from her face, checked for broken bones, untied the rope marks that had rubbed her wrists raw. As the hours passed, the woman stirred, her eyes flickering open for only a moment. In that brief second he saw fear, deep, instinctive fear, as though she had witnessed something monstrous. But before she could speak, she fell unconscious again. Elijah sat nearby, keeping watch. The desert was quiet again, but this time it felt different, as if the world was holding its breath. At sundown, shadows stretched across the ranch like long fingers. Elijah wasn't easily scared, but today something gnawed at his gut. Why would anyone leave a woman suspended like that? Why here on his land? And why without any tracks leading away? When night came, he stepped outside with a lantern, scanning the horizon, listening for anything unusual. The silence felt heavier now. The stars above were bright, but the land below seemed darker than usual. Elijah returned inside, sitting near the woman again. There was a mystery buried in the desert tonight, and he knew it wasn't finished with him yet. He didn't know her name, her story, or the danger that followed her. But somewhere deep in his chest, where loneliness had lived for years, something sparked, something protective, something alive. And though Elijah Boone had lived alone for nearly 2 decades, tonight he wasn't alone anymore. "Folks," he murmured under his breath, imagining his future audience, "if you're hearing this story, don't forget to subscribe and ride along." Outside, the desert wind shifted, as if something unseen was moving in the darkness. Morning arrived slowly, drifting across the desert like a soft blanket of gold. Elijah barely slept, checking on the mysterious woman every hour, making sure her breathing stayed steady. When she finally opened her eyes fully, the fear was still there, but now it was mixed with confusion and exhaustion. "You're safe," Elijah said gently, kneeling beside her. She struggled to sit up, wincing from the pain in her shoulders. Who are you?" Her voice cracked, brittle from dehydration. "Name's Elijah Boone. Found you tied up out there in the desert. You remember any of it?" The woman swallowed hard, her expression tightening. "My name is Mara," she whispered. "And no, I don't remember everything, just shadows, voices. I think someone was following me." Elijah leaned back, absorbing every word. Mara described flashes, dark figures, torchlight, long rides through the night. But no faces, no reasons, only fear. She said she was traveling with a small group heading toward the northern canyons when everything went wrong. Elijah brought her warm water and stew, and as she ate, her hands trembled. But something didn't add up. If she had been left to die, why were there no tracks? Why leave no message? Why choose Elijah's land specifically? As Mara rested, Elijah saddled his horse, needing to check the site again. Mara insisted on coming, her eyes burning with determination despite the pain. Against his better judgment, Elijah helped her mount the horse behind him and rode back. The poles still stood like silent guardians of a terrible secret. Mara froze as soon as she saw them. Her breathing quickened. Her hands trembled. "I remember this," she whispered. "They said I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Something they wanted to keep hidden." Elijah scanned the ground again. Nothing had changed. No prints, no broken twigs, no hint of human presence. It was impossible. Even expert trackers would leave something behind. Mara knelt, touching the rope fibers. "These knots, they're not tribal. And not bandit work either. Someone knew exactly what they were doing." Elijah looked toward the distant horizon. For a moment the air shimmered, not from heat but something else. A shape appeared far away, standing still. Elijah stiffened. Mara grabbed his arm. "They're watching us." But when he blinked, the figure was gone. A chill ran down his spine. They hurried back to the ranch before sunset. As night approached, the sky turned blood red. Elijah lit lanterns around the house, checking his rifle and revolver. Mara stayed near the window, staring at the open desert like she was waiting for something. Hours passed. Then came the sound, a distant rhythmic thumping. Not hoofbeats, not footsteps. Something slower, heavier. The lanterns flickered. The wind died. Elijah and Mara exchanged terrified glances. Then silence. Elijah stepped outside, rifle in hand. The desert looked normal, yet every instinct screamed danger. He saw nothing until he turned around. A symbol had been carved into the front door, fresh as though made seconds ago. A perfect circle with 3 vertical slashes through it. Mara gasped. "I've seen that before. It belongs to a group that never leaves witnesses." Elijah ran his thumb across the mark. Whoever had come had walked right up to the house without making a sound. "Mara," he said softly, "we need to leave now." Before she could answer, the thumping returned, closer this time. Elijah grabbed her hand, pulling her onto the horse. They rode into the night, leaving the ranch behind. The sky was dark, but the desert floor glowed faintly under the moonlight. They didn't stop until they reached the canyon, where narrow walls created natural protection. Once hidden, Mara exhaled shakily. "Why are they after me?" Elijah didn't answer at first. He didn't have to. He knew now it wasn't about her. It was about what she witnessed. Something important enough for killers to cross miles of desert silently. Something powerful enough that they wanted no trace of her left, and somehow Elijah had been pulled into this storm. As they rested in the shadows of the canyon, Elijah looked into the distance, imagining all the viewers who loved Wild West mysteries just like this. "If you're watching," he murmured under his breath, "hit that subscribe button, 'cause this ain't the end. Not by a long shot." Mara looked at him, puzzled, but then she smiled, tired yet hopeful. For the first time in years, Elijah Boone wasn't alone. The desert around them felt alive, whispering of danger still coming, but also of a partnership forming, one forged by fear, courage, and destiny. And as the night deepened, one thing became clear: whoever had left Mara suspended in the desert was coming back. And next time they wouldn't be hiding. courage, and destiny. And as the night deepened, one thing became clear: whoever had left Mara suspended in the desert was coming back. And next time they wouldn't be hiding.